Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that often glorifies intelligence, success, and power. But true wisdom comes from self awareness and the ability to learn and grow. Intelligence isn't just about book smarts, it's about emotional maturity, decision making, and how we handle life's challenges. Today, I want to talk about 6 signs of a stupid woman, not to insult, but to encourage reflection and growth. One of the most defining traits of a foolish woman is her inability to take responsibility for her own actions and circumstances. Instead of acknowledging her role in a situation, she constantly blames others, her parents, her boss, her friends, her partner, or even society as a whole. In her mind, life is something that happens to her, not something she has control over. She complains about her problems but never takes meaningful steps to solve them. If she fails at something, she immediately points fingers rather than reflecting on what she could have done differently. If a relationship falls apart, she insists that she was the victim of betrayal, toxicity, or bad luck without considering the role she may have played in its downfall. If she struggles in her career, she claims the system is rigged against her but does little to improve her skills or work ethic. This mentality not only keeps her stuck but also drains those around her. People begin to see her as someone who is constantly negative, always looking for sympathy, and unwilling to grow. Friends may feel exhausted by her never-ending complaints, while potential mentors or partners may avoid her because they recognize that she brings problems instead of solutions. A wise woman, on the other hand, understands that while life can be unfair, she has power over her own responses. She takes accountability for her choices, learns from her mistakes, and focuses on what she can control instead of fixating on what she cannot. Rather than dwelling on the past or waiting for someone to rescue her, she takes action to change her situation. The difference between a foolish woman and a wise woman is simple. One plays the victim while the other takes charge of her life. A foolish woman believes that her physical appearance is the most important thing about her. She invests excessive time, energy, and resources into looking perfect, chasing beauty standards, obsessing over makeup, clothes, and social media validation, while neglecting personal growth, intelligence, and emotional depth. She may spend hours perfecting her selfies, editing photos, and seeking attention online, believing that the number of likes or compliments she receives defines her worth. There is nothing wrong with wanting to look good. Self-care and confidence are important. However, when a woman places all her value in her looks and ignores the development of her mind, personality, and skills, she sets herself up for failure in the long run. Beauty fades, trends change, and the admiration she seeks today may not last forever. If she has no depth beyond her appearance, what remains when youth and beauty no longer give her an advantage? This kind of woman often attracts the wrong people into her life. Those who only care about superficial qualities and see her as an object rather than a person. She may find herself in relationships where she is valued for her body rather than her mind, leading to disappointment and heartbreak. When she realizes that attraction alone cannot sustain meaningful connections. Furthermore, prioritizing looks over substance can make her insecure. No matter how beautiful she may be, she constantly compares herself to others, always seeking approval and fearing the day when someone younger, prettier, or trendier takes the spotlight. This insecurity can manifest as jealousy, desperation for attention, or an inability to be genuinely happy for other women's successes. A wise woman, in contrast, understands that true beauty comes from intelligence, kindness, confidence, and strength of character. She invests in her education, sharpens her skills, and builds a personality that commands respect beyond just physical attraction. While she may take care of her appearance, she knows that what truly makes a woman attractive is her ability to think, to inspire, and to bring value to the world beyond just her looks. A foolish woman thrives on gossip, rumors, and unnecessary drama. She enjoys discussing other people's lives, often in a negative or judgmental way, and finds entertainment in conflicts that don't concern her. Rather than using her time to improve herself or focus on meaningful conversations, she is constantly involved in talking about who did what, who failed, and who is facing difficulties. Instead of being a source of wisdom or encouragement, she becomes the kind of person others associate with negativity and toxicity. Gossiping might seem harmless or even fun in the moment, but it damages both her reputation and her relationships. When a woman consistently spreads rumors, people start to see her as untrustworthy. Those around her may laugh along, but deep down they know that if she talks badly about others, she will likely do the same to them. Over time, she loses respect and people become wary of confiding in her or building genuine friendships. Not only does she create problems where none exist, but she also fuels unnecessary conflicts. She might twist words, exaggerate stories, or intentionally stir up tension between people just for entertainment. This kind of behavior is emotionally draining for those around her and often leads to social isolation as people eventually distance themselves from the chaos she brings. Another sign of a foolish woman is her tendency to react emotionally rather than logically. She gets caught up in unnecessary fights, holds grudges over petty issues, and lets her ego control her responses. Instead of resolving misunderstandings calmly, she escalates situations, making them worse than they need to be. A wise woman, however, understands the value of peace. She avoids unnecessary drama, chooses her words carefully, and surrounds herself with people who uplift rather than tear down. She understands that intelligent conversations, personal growth, and genuine connections are far more valuable than idle gossip and meaningless conflicts. A foolish woman believes she already knows everything. She resists advice, ignores constructive criticism, and refuses to acknowledge her mistakes. Her unwillingness to learn and adapt keeps her stuck in the same patterns, making the same mistakes over and over again. This type of woman often surrounds herself with people who tell her what she wants to hear rather than those who challenge her to be better. She may reject feedback from family, friends, or mentors because she cannot handle the idea that she might be wrong. Instead of taking responsibility for her shortcomings and working to improve, she makes excuses, blames others, or convinces herself that she is fine just the way she is. Even if her life is full of problems, a refusal to learn doesn't just apply to formal education, it also extends to emotional intelligence, relationships, and personal growth. A woman who is unwilling to evolve will struggle in every area of life. If she refuses to learn from past relationship failures, she will keep choosing the wrong partners. If she refuses to develop new skills, she will limit her career opportunities. If she rejects personal growth, she will remain the same while the world around her moves forward. One major sign of a foolish woman is her resistance to reading, exploring new ideas, or listening to different perspectives. She may dismiss new information without even considering it, preferring to stay comfortable in her ignorance. This mindset not only makes her less capable of handling life's challenges, but also makes her less interesting to be around. Over time, she may find herself left behind as others grow, succeed, and move forward, while she remains stuck in the same place. A wise woman, however, understands that growth is a lifelong journey. She seeks knowledge, embraces change, and is willing to admit when she is wrong. She surrounds herself with people who inspire and challenge her to be better. Instead of seeing feedback as an attack, she sees it as a tool for improvement. Her willingness to learn and adapt allows her to grow into a stronger, wiser, and more successful version of herself. A foolish woman makes romantic relationships the center of her life. She believes that her happiness, success, and self-worth depend on whether or not she has a man. Instead of focusing on building her own future, developing her skills, or achieving her dreams, she spends all her time and energy chasing love and validation from men. This kind of woman is often willing to sacrifice her ambitions for a relationship. She may give up on her education, abandon her career goals, or neglect her personal growth just to keep a man interested. Her decisions revolve around what he wants, what makes him happy, and what she thinks will keep him from leaving. In the process, she loses her sense of identity and becomes completely dependent on her partner for emotional and financial support. A foolish woman also tends to ignore red flags in relationships. Because she is so desperate for love, she tolerates mistreatment, disrespect, and even abuse. She may stay in toxic situations, convincing herself that she can change a man or that being in a bad relationship is better than being alone. She allows herself to be treated as an option rather than a priority, all because she fears losing the relationship. Another sign of a woman who chases men instead of her goals is that she constantly seeks male attention. She may jump from one relationship to another, afraid of being single because she measures her worth based on whether someone desires her. She might flirt excessively, lower her standards, or compromise her values just to keep a man interested. But what happens when the relationship ends? If she has spent years investing in a man rather than herself, she is left with nothing. No career, no financial independence, no personal accomplishments, just heartbreak and regret. This cycle often repeats itself because she never learned to build a life for herself outside of a relationship. A wise woman, however, understands that a relationship should complement her life, not define it. She prioritizes her education, career, and passions. She sets goals, works hard, and creates a life she loves, with or without a man. When she does enter a relationship, it is with someone who respects her independence and supports her ambitions. She knows that true love should empower her, not limit her. Instead of chasing a man, she chases her dreams, and the right man will come along naturally. A foolish woman does not value herself. She allows people to treat her poorly, tolerates disrespect, and lowers her standards just to feel accepted or loved. Instead of standing up for herself, she seeks approval from others, often at the cost of her dignity and well-being. Her lack of self-respect affects every area of her life, her relationships, her career, and even how she sees herself. One of the biggest signs of a woman who lacks self-respect is that she tolerates toxic relationships. She may stay with a man who lies to her, disrespects her, or even cheats on her, making excuses for his behavior. She convinces herself that if she loves him enough, he will change. Instead of walking away from mistreatment, she clings to relationships where she is not valued. In the process, she loses her self-worth, allowing herself to be treated as an option rather than a priority. A woman without self-respect also struggles with setting boundaries. She lets people walk all over her, afraid that saying no will make others dislike her. She overextends herself, agrees to things she is uncomfortable with, and allows people to use her kindness as a weakness. This behavior attracts toxic individuals who take advantage of her because they know she won't stand up for herself. Another sign of lacking self-respect is constantly seeking validation from others. A foolish woman bases her confidence on how many people like her, how much attention she gets on social media, or how desirable men find her. She may dress, act, or change herself just to gain approval, forgetting that true confidence comes from within. Her happiness is tied to external validation, leaving her feeling empty when the attention fades. A woman who lacks self-respect often neglects her own well-being. She may engage in self-destructive habits, whether it's unhealthy relationships, poor lifestyle choices, or ignoring her mental health. Instead of prioritizing self-care and growth, she allows herself to be controlled by unhealthy attachments and fleeting pleasures. A wise woman, on the other hand, knows her worth. She sets clear boundaries, walks away from toxic situations, and does not allow others to define her value. She understands that self-respect is the foundation of a happy and fulfilling life. She focuses on her goals, takes care of herself, and surrounds herself with people who uplift and respect her. True strength comes from knowing that she does not have to settle for less than she deserves. At the end of the day, intelligence is not just about knowledge. It's about self-awareness, growth, and the choices we make. A foolish woman remains stuck in patterns that hold her back, whether it's playing the victim, obsessing over appearances, engaging in drama, refusing to grow, chasing men instead of her goals, or lacking self-respect. These traits don't just harm her, they limit her potential and prevent her from living a truly fulfilling life. But here's the good news. Every woman has the power to change. Recognizing these negative traits is the first step towards self-improvement. The difference between a wise woman and a foolish one is not perfection. It's the willingness to learn, grow, and make better choices. So let's strive to be women who take responsibility, invest in personal growth, set boundaries, and build a life we are proud of. Because a truly intelligent woman doesn't just seek validation, she creates value, commands respect, and inspires those around her.